So the narrative's fallen apart, and this is not a new occurrence. This happens every couple of months when the Dems decide that they're going to jump on something, make a huge amount of assumptions, usually about some guy in America who's decided that terrorism is the way forward, and then turns out there's a fact that's inconvenient that gets revealed, and then it all falls apart, and we all have to run away.
Have we found our new Jussie Smollett?
Yeah, well, it's usually something to do with that, isn't it? It's usually BLM, where it's just like, oh, yeah, no, he had a knife, or, oh, no, he was shooting the cops beforehand, or something like that. But instead, this time round, well, it's about Colorado Springs, isn't it? We'll start off just by mentioning first the premium podcast debate Might As Well Be Dead that me and Cole did in response to Calvin's discussions with some NPCs. Because the thing is, if you just operate as an NPC, you don't end up with the facts, and in which case, you end up looking like a moron to anyone who's looked at the situation a bit more than just, oh, I read it on the news and then I moved on. Like, right, yeah. So you listen to CNN, and then we're like, yeah, that's enough. They'll get back to me if something changes.
They also do all have about the same charisma as the Oblivion characters who have their re-recorded dialogue voice lines within their actual voice lines.
I tell you the things I don't want to hear. I still can't get over that. But anyway, do go and check that out on the podcast. Otherwise, we shall begin with, I had to archive this just to be sure, because this is Vox who reported at the time. Shooting at Colorado LGBT club kills 5, injured 25. And you think, okay, that's a bit weird. Vox doesn't usually do like breaking news.
Yep.
But of course, it's not about the news, is it? It's about, well, here's our chance to push a narrative. And they did. You might think also just another day in Chicago, but then again, it's an LGBT club, so we have to do politics, don't we? Authorities are investigating the attack as a potential hate crime. Though the shooter's motive is not yet known, so why bother if you're Vox? You don't do breaking news, so a bit weird. The attack at the Club Q in Colorado Springs coincides with the rise of anti-LGBT rhetoric, legislation and harassment and violence in the United States. And the hyperlink they have there for that is an article talking about, quote, Republicans and militant groups portray LGBTQ people as groomers targeting children among other baseless smears.
Right, but we have it on video of you dragging children into strip clubs.
The obvious narrative setting is, Republicans think that we shouldn't be able to talk to children about blowjobs at the age of 4.
Yep.
They did this. Yeah, that's them.
Yeah.
This is the real... You don't think for a minute maybe you shouldn't be talking to children about blowjobs as well as not killing people, but no. We have to ignore all of that. This is why we need to talk to children about blowjobs at the age of 4. Okay, sure. Otherwise, we'll have violence on our hands. LGBTQ rights, Vox rights, are on the line of the current political climate. Republicans have stepped up the anti-LGBTQ policies and rhetoric in the recent years, particularly against trans people. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed legislation earlier this year preventing teachers in public schools from discussing gender identity or sexuality with students from kindergarten through to 3rd grade. Beyond that, you can do what you want, but beyond 3rd grade, that's fine. But
yeah.
Kindergarten to 3rd grade, I can't believe he did this. Quote, or in a manner that is not age-appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards, the law reads.
So you can't give children sex advice without consulting their parents at all, and you can't give it to children that are
kindergarten age to 3rd grade, just don't talk to them about sex.
Yep.
If you could do that. And Vox bring that up in this article about the shooting because... What? I mean, it's just narrative setting. It's obvious what it is, which is if you don't allow us to talk to your kindergartens about sex, then we have violence. Yeah, see?
How dare you conflate all LGBTQ plus community people with grooming and sexualizing children? Also, in a shooting against an LGBTQ plus community club, we're going to mention grooming and sexualizing children.
It's obvious as well that, no, being gay doesn't make you a groomer. Those are two different things. But
hence why gays against groomers exists.
Lost on such people. We'll go to the news because there is some good news in a horrible incident like this. We have 2 lads who apparently took down the shooter. And it's a bit weird because this also got politicized by the people there because they couldn't just let things fly. If you scroll down, we can see the graphics that were put up to be like, yes, look, drag queen power. The Colorado shooter was taken down by a retired military veteran and a drag queen who stomped on him with her heels. Yeah, the thing is, if the individual here had the strength of a woman, I don't know.
No,
let's not be silly about this. I mean, you can see Lauren Southern making the point there. It's just like, if they were women, they need a gun. That's just true. You can moan about it, but I mean that's the reason why I spoke to a guy recently who was mentioning his wife feels perfectly safe in the United States, even with all the violent crime that we don't have here. And when she came to the UK, she just feels constantly unsafe because she doesn't have a gun. Yeah. She's like, if you leave the home and some guy breaks in, what am I to do? And he's like, well.
Yeah, and if you pepper spray your assailant, you're the one slapped off in cuffs.
Yeah. Anyway, we go to the next one. This is a piece of news that was brought up by Tim Poole and got him a lot of hate, which is he posted a screenshot. I got a screenshot of Club Q's own Facebook post, get him hate, Well, because he noted that the day before the shooting took place, they have a post celebrating that they're having an all-ages drag brunch. Come on down and visit. And then, that happened. Thing is, I looked up the Facebook page because I wanted to see how often was this. And Club Q, from what I could find searching, only did this 2 other times.
Right.
And it only started this September. This is in between a load of posts about how they're becoming a monkeypox vaccine center as well, which is weird.
Just a very current thing factory. The interesting thing as well, I can
But
see
they start
there.
in September. It's just the point of
Yep.
well, you didn't do this, so then the Gays Against Groomers stuff kicks up, and then someone like you is like, you know what, we're going to have all ages brunches, which, yeah, that's a terrible idea. So is killing people, for clarity.
Yeah. The interesting thing as well is they say we're celebrating Transgender Day of Remembrance with the All Ages Brunch Drag Show. I don't happen to remember Armistice Day being celebrated by Cabaret. So there is such a thing as dignity. If you're genuinely talking about so many transgender people who have lost their lives to hate crimes and or the high suicide rate, which is obviously brought on by the fact that they can't get surgery, why not do a more dignified celebration? But no, instead we're going to expose children to cross-dressing strippers.
Pure ideology.
Yeah.
That's all it ends up being. We have Tim Pool, who got in even more trouble, because not only did he do this, he decided to tweet this out, which is, we shouldn't tolerate pedophiles grooming kids, and Club Q had a grooming event. How do we prevent the violence and stop the grooming?
Good on your beanie man.
Which got him in a huge amount of trouble. Because what is he saying here? He's saying, well, look, these things are open to pedophiles exploiting them. If you're going to have an all-ages drag brunch, it's not a good idea.
No.
Regardless of the shooting that's taken place. Also, don't do that. You know, 2 things can be true at once. Don't kill people who are innocent, and don't groom kids. It seems like a pretty normal thing for a political activist to say as their goals. Of course it wasn't. Everyone had a meltdown. Particularly the Young Turks had an extremely big meltdown. Particularly Cenk, who decided to start screeching about how Tim Pool's beanie is where he has to wear it to keep all the paedophilia in, which is
What?
It's Cenk Yuga going on.
Did he
I don't know,
actually say
stupid
that?
guy. Of course, yeah, he did. He did this
Okay.
because it's Cenk. He can't talk like a normal person. He has to reduce himself to like a 12-year-old on Xbox.
Yeah, the man who said, I would legalize bestiality were I God, is accusing other people of being sexual degenerates. Okay, you big,
But
sweaty,
it's not about
screaming
sexual
lump.
degeneracy. He's just like, I hate you saying these things. You're a pedo.
Yeah.
Okay, right. That's the Young Turks for you. Anyway, you have Tim responding there, which was pretty funny actually. He just goes, "Amazing, lol." It's weird because I'm not a Catholic, conservative, or Republican. Like, they can't understand that independents also oppose them. Anyone who isn't in the cult is a Republican. Cenk, I love you, buddy. Which is a very polite way of dealing with it, to say the least. There's also one reporter who, had seen the Facebook post about the all-ages brunch, so asked a question of the police. And the people got mad at that. During the press conference in Colorado Springs, a reporter asked if any minors were at the event that was attacked. Seems like a fair question.
Yeah.
The response, and we should all know who was spreading that anti-LGBT hate rhetoric and what news organization she works for. 30,000 like-a-roonies on that one.
Right.
Don't you know we have a narrative? Because I know there was a post about how all ages were there, so were there any kids there? I mean, kind of relevant to the story if a bunch of kids were killed as well. No. Don't even ask the question. You're asking the question is
But it's also
anti-LGBT hate rhetoric.
LGBTQ plus spaces are safe spaces for children. Also, how dare you ask if children were in our LGBTQ plus space?
There's the narrative, and that's all we've got. And anything inconvenient to that, or even just, maybe there's some more complexity here, can't be asked. And that's the point about the cult that I think Tim is correct about. We go to the next one here. We then had the immediate response at the time, which is, as you have, President Biden saying that, no motive of this attack is yet clear, so shut up. We know that gun violence has a particular impact on the LGBTQI plus communities across our nation.
Yes,
So-
because I remember the Second Amendment clause that says, guns unless you're gay.
Well, no, unless our precious gays are being killed, in which case, just F having borders and laws and S. I just hate this after every attack in the United States. Whether it's political or not, it's just a bunch of people got killed by a gun. One guy shot them. All right, we'll ban the guns. So another day in Chicago. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Anyway.
why didn't the club have armed security?
I don't know, but it's not their fault. Like,
No,
you shouldn't
I'm
have
just
to live
merely
like that.
you shouldn't have to, but it's still a smart idea. So it just betrays the idea that the gun violence narrative is nonsense. Because if the club was armed, clearly because of all these evil MAGA Republicans lurking around every corner willing to shoot you up, it could have been useful.
Well, the army veteran did take him down there. I'm all
Yeah.
in favor of all of them having the guns all the times as
Yeah.
well. I'm very pro being armed. It's the only way you actually have
I'm
a polite
pro
society.
self-defense. I know it's an evil fence-sitting position.
We'll go to the AOC, who has something to say. Of course she does. After Trump elevated anti-immigrant rhetoric, blah, 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 some attack happened. After anti-Asian hate saying COVID came from China, blah, 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 attack happened. And now anti-LGBT campaign, Colorado Springs, connect the dots. GOP. I don't know. Sanders first, sorry. If you go to AOC first, because I put them in the wrong order, but oh well. And then we have Sanders just saying, let's be clear, it's terrible, but it's because of anti-LGBT rhetoric. Right. Like, yep. You've all got your narrative. None of you know the facts. None of you are doing anything. You're just ambulance chasers. That's all you people are. Every goddamn time. So it happened once to Dave Rubin. Like, I remember it happening to him, and he was quite embarrassed about it, and it was rightfully so. He assumed, I believe it was an attack in Canada, and he believed it was a Muslim attack, and it turned out to be some incel who had taken his car and run down people. I think that's a reasonable assumption, given the fact that there were no incel terrorist attacks up until that point, and also it was a Trucko Peace style attack. It's like, okay, I can understand the reasoning, but you don't jump on something like this when you don't know the facts. It's just smart. And, if you're slightly engaging in politics as an activist, forgivable, but if you're AOC, Bernie Sanders, Biden, other Democratic operatives such as this dude, it's just like, stop. Just stop for 5 minutes. And no, they can't, can they? This guy comes up with, wow, just one day after the Colorado Springs gay nightclub shooting, Herschel Walker is now running an anti-LGBT community ad opposing the Equality Act. So, yeah.
Isn't that the one about him talking to the swimmer who had to compete with Leah Thomas?
I don't know what the specific advertisement is.
I think it is.
But they just have to conflate the two, don't they?
No.
So if you have a problem with us talking to your 4-year-olds about sex, what type of sex, what positions, different activities you can have. I mean, we've seen the books that have been leaked that you people want in the schools. So this isn't debatable. If we can't do that, then, well, we're just going to have gay people being killed left, right, and center, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's like, no, we really you didn't have this. Not a thing you have to have. It's not you have to have both of those things or something. Anyway, someone else started to come out, and it turns out it was Republicans who did this. 22-year-old Colorado Springs mass shooter is the grandson of a GOP Californian state assemblyman. There we are. So, must be Republicans.
Right. So, we're literally doing your grandfather was a landowner, therefore, to prison with you for the rest of your life.
It's more, we can now play the game of the Republicans killed all these people.
Yeah, but I love the assumption that somehow there's a genealogical transmission of values along your bloodline.
Well, I mean, it is true that political values usually stay within the family, but it is ridiculous to be like, well, you're his grandson, therefore you're a Nazi. So
but this goes out on Thanksgiving, and how many years have we had how to talk to your racist Trump-supporting uncle at Thanksgiving articles or Christmas dinners coming out? So clearly even the Dems know, factually,
it's all just...
the new generation does not transmit the values of their predecessors and they want to get rid of it. But, of course, if you can make a convenient hatchet job on it, you can just ignore that fact.
Then we have the media. The media decided to come out and play the game because they couldn't shut up. After Colorado Springs attacks, LGBTQ people are furious at the rhetoric targeting them, talking about how they don't like being called groomers. Except most gay people don't have this problem.
Nope.
It is really a very Californian, let's say, activity that gets criticized. It is not something that happens outside of these purviews. And then the big bad came. The troll news. If we go to the next one here, you see they is non-binary. The shooter.
Yeah.
Oh no. Ew, no.
Quite the spanner in the works.
Narrative! And this is the thing. The dude may be trolling. I'm not an idiot. I know. He may just be trolling. But the thing is, it doesn't matter if you're a leftist because you have to believe the person's truth, even when it's nonsense, such as a woman with a beard, as we've covered many a time. So I suppose, if for no other reason than the terms of service on various social medias, we actually have to take this crap seriously, which is they are non-binary and did this attack, in which case, what happens to the narrative? Well, we have an artist's interpretation of what might be happening at Democratic headquarters, so I suppose we'll play the clip and enjoy that.
Oh, no. No.
Can we get a Carl button for every time we want to get the boss's attention?
It's very much, oh no, what do we do? In case you think I'm exaggerating, we have footage from CNN of exactly this happening, and in real time too, which is... it's a beauty, technology. The fact that it allows you to see your political opponents, a world crumble before their eyes, 24/7, but let's play it and enjoy.
So... attorneys for the accused shooter, Anderson Lee Aldrich, say in new court filings tonight that the suspect now identifies as non-binary. In a footnote to a motion asserting legal privileges, the public defenders say, quote, Anderson Aldrich is non-binary. They use they, them pronouns, and for the purposes of all formal filings will be addressed as Mix Aldrich. So in other words, not Mr. or Ms. Joining me now, CNN political commentator Errol Lewis, also back with me, Al Franken and Joe Walsh. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, that's not anything that we had heard from his background. You know, people have been looking into his background. And I don't know if anybody here, are you guys lawyers? I mean, you know, I don't know if, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, that's what he's now saying.
It sounds like they're trying to prepare a defense against a hate crimes charge. That's the least of his problems, legally speaking, but it looks like they're trying to build some kind of sympathy or at least confusion on the question of whether or not this was purely motivated by hate.
I mean, that is what it sounds like. We'll wait to see.
How dare Errol Lewis deny this man's authentic gender expression?
Man. You can see the pain on the host's face as she reads that out. She's like, crap. The artist's interpretation was entirely on point.
Yep.
And they don't believe that they is they. And I can't stand for that. I personally just... It's horrible, the transphobia you'll find on CNN these days, or non-binary phobia. Oh, who even cares? Anyway, we'll go to there's more of that, because then they had a person who says they're a trans woman on, who insists that...
That's Tom Harwood in a wig.
This trans woman says that they believe that the non-binary person is a man, and I don't know why they believe this either, but they say they can tell by looking. I'm not joking. This horrific incident took place live on CNN. Let's play.
I think that's complete ludicrous. I believe they're just saying that because they want to have the easy way out on this. That's really, really offending, especially being a transgender woman myself, that a male, which it was obvious with the mugshot, that's a man, that's not a non-binary person, because in no way, shape, or form could they appear as a woman the next day. It's really offensive to even hear that they're playing that role. And if they're non-binary, why would you go after the club where you feel safe at? Why would you do that to a community where you are welcomed in if you are non-binary?
Well, such bigotry like that puts normative gender standards on their genuine expression, that's why they didn't feel safe, of course.
I can tell it's a man. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. And when anyone says that to that dude there, they're going to be in trouble. Because the thing is, how can you tell? Let's look at this. Let's look at this image. How can you tell?
I don't want to apply the Crocodile Dundee test.
We can't know. We literally can't know.
No.
Remember? This is how we have to live our lives.
Yep.
Except that when something inconvenient happens, such as someone says they're non-binary when they're not. Sorry, no, they are. Indeed. We have to suddenly throw everything out the window. We know what a woman and a man are again. Amazing. Amazing indeed.
Speaking of throwing things at the window, did you see the recent New York gay club that had a brick thrown through its window?
Yeah.
By a gay man?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, it happens more often than you think as well. There's quite a few of those. So her idea that it actually couldn't be a non-binary person who would do such a thing, it's not even true. It's just go look up in your own time. Otherwise, we'll go for the pronoun wars, because of course this stupid didn't have to end, did it? More of it. Pink news. Colorado Springs police identify mass shooting victims using their proper names and pronouns. The question on my mind is, though, will they honor the shooter? I'm not being just facetious for no point here. Because the thing is, if you are going to believe, we can't tell the difference. If you're going to buy into gender ideology in which you can't tell the difference, and you need to use the pronouns, and they have to be correct, and if you don't, that's some kind of violent act, in which case, yeah, you also have to do it for the shooter. Presumably, this is the game the shooter was playing with his demand here. But he you know, they have really thrown a wrench into the works here.
Otherwise, you're just perpetuating internalized homophobia, which clearly led them to conduct this terrible attack. It must be society's fault.
So, words from the police here. Kelly Loving, Kelling's pronouns are she, her. Daniel Aston, Daniel's pronouns are he, him. Derek Rump, Derek's pronouns are he, him.
Rump.
Vasquez says.
Vasquez.
But it goes on with this. It's just, like, I get that it might be an emotional circumstance, but what are you doing? Since 2013, they write in here in Pink News, the report found that 70% of those killed were initially misgendered by the media and or the police. But what about the shooters?
Yeah.
This is the thing, like, a horrible incident, don't get me wrong. Like, you know, I'm very horrible for the people who are actually, you know, in that area and know the people.
Yeah, now I feel bad for laughing at the last name.
But it's just ridiculous, this circumstance. It's like, we must follow gender ideology until it's inconvenient, and then you have to reckon with that dichotomy in your head. And they go on. The Colorado Police Department spokesman, Pamela Castro, said the decision to include the pronouns was very simple. For us, there was not a lot of discussion about how we were going to identify the victims, because we all agreed from the beginning that we would use their names and pronouns. So, yep, of course it's a woman making that decision, but it's also just, why not shoot her then? Come on, you're going to have to do it. If you want to live this life, you've got to live it fully.
It's a shame that it takes tragedies of this magnitude to highlight the sort of fissures and fraction points in their ideology, because, I mean, we shouldn't have had to have people die to point out how ridiculous what you purport to believe is.
Well, it was always ridiculous. It's revealing that when it actually comes to something like this, I don't believe they will carry out their own ideology, because they know this is a farce. This is all just pick and choose your religion here. Point number one as well, just pronouns are irrelevant.
Yep.
Especially to the dead, for Christ's sake. I mean, do you remember during what was it, COVID, there was a BBC article, I'm scared about being buried with the wrong gender?
Yes.
So I'm scared about being buried.
Yeah.
But okay. Point number two, also just falsehoods don't make for better police work, nor do they make for better record keeping. Just keep it in mind. Anyway, but it's the same reason why we don't honour the pronouns of a shooter or someone who raped female inmates in the UK. This is just because, what are you doing with your life? Like, actually live in reality instead of Fantasyland. But it doesn't have to end there, of course. It gets even worse. Because MSNBC decided to come out, and even after this detail was emerged, I saw on Ben Shapiro's show, they decided that Libs of TikTok was actually responsible. Yeah, let's play that.
Let me get stochastic terrorism.
And explain that when you hear that, your reaction to it, and then kind of walk us through how rhetoric online, rhetoric from politicians can ultimately trickle down into real life, and seeing examples of what happened over the weekend.
Yeah, the response is heartbreaking. I mean, it's a group of marginalized, vulnerable people who are disproportionately the victims of these sort of hate crimes, who are just simply saying, please stop. Please stop making money and gaining political power on our backs and on violence against us. There is a pipeline. It starts from some smaller accounts online, like Libs of TikTok. It moves to the right-wing blogosphere, and then it ends up on Tucker Carlson, or it ends up out of a right-wing politician's mouth. And it's a really dangerous cycle.
Right, so stop making money and political capital off of these dead bodies. Also, here's an entire news report about these dead people and how it fits into my larger political narrative. Go to hell.
Yeah, it's pretty comical, but you'll notice there's actually a point missing to her train of thought. Remember how she's like, yeah, well, look, Libs of TikTok reports something, and then shooting her? Huh? It was like, what comes before Libs of TikTok? The thing is, Libs of TikTok isn't just a random name generated. It's because she goes on TikTok and looks up the Libs. The Libs' actions on there. It's like, amazingly, two things could be true at once, but this is actually impossible for these people, apparently. Which is crime bad, and also trying to indoctrinate 4-year-olds or tell them about how to do proper blowjobs is weird, and something's wrong with you, and you shouldn't do that. And maybe you should keep sexualization away from children, and also don't murder. Big announcements, I'm sure, but you can't have both of those. Apparently, you have to have both. You have to have the first, and also. That's the only way to keep gay people safe. Again, as if gay people are the same thing as those on Libs of TikTok, which there's a reason there's accounts denouncing it constantly. Anyway, horrible circumstance, and the situation itself is not something I really wanted to get into. But I just couldn't get over the reporting of here's my narrative, and then it fell apart in front of them, and then just the absolute cope of like, no, we can still keep this together, folks. And it's just sick. If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Epoch series, the most recent one on King Henry I. If you'd like to find out what else we're putting out, you can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.